financially sustainable brands for Africa's evolving work landscape. And I'm going to invite Tutsirai Jenje, CLINT, Mukarakate, Ms. Chindiya, and Anesu Chikumba, and as well as Valentine.
Hello, can you guys hear me? My name is Valentine Mwamba. I am the CEO and founder of .zw, and Tongai kindly invited me to moderate a panel. I don't know why, but sure thing. I'll let my guests introduce themselves because I don't think I'll do them justice. So starting from my right all the way down the line.
Doesn't look like. Okay. Hello? Is it working? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you to AfriBlocks for having me. My name is Mikey Chindiya. I am a private wealth manager. I specialize in tailor-making wealth solutions for Zimbabwean professionals in the offshore market at a firm called Carrick Wealth Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, guys. You guys good? Everyone's okay? Great. My name is CLINT Mukarakate. I am a software developer, and also I run a small tech site called the Zimbabwean Perspective. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Hi everyone, my name is Anesu Chikumba, and I am a digital brand strategist, and I essentially help people, brands, organizations bridge the gap between who they are and what they want to be known for.
Hi everyone, my name is Tutsirai Jenje, and I'm a brand building expert, so I help people build signature legacy brands that sell. Signature in that if you want your brand to be in existence 25 years and beyond. And I also help giving people digital solutions that help them catch the attention of their ideal clients. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Clint, you have something to say?
If anyone can tell, I am clearly the person who is least experienced in this field right now. So if anyone has any dumb questions, don't worry, I'm probably going to ask them first, but we can continue.
All right, so the first question is the simplest question, brand anatomy. So we all have an idea of what a brand is, but the strategist and the brand builder at the end, Tutsirai and Anesu, we'll start with Anesu. Please can you describe to us what a brand is? Because yeah, I can see some blank faces in the crowd.
Great, you can go ahead. Oh, you want me to start? That's great. For me, what I believe a brand is, to be honest, to just bring it down to the basic, a brand is a perception. That is what a brand is. A perception, how basically how people feel about you, how people understand you, and how people experience you. So a brand is a perception, what we think of you, how we see you, and how we basically experience you. That's what I would say.
And is there anything to add on that?
I agree with that. But just to add on, like Tutsirai is saying, your brand is essentially what people say you are, who they say you are, and that is supported by everything in your business, everything that you do.
So Anesu, I'm aware that you actually help companies build brands, Tutsirai as well, but I'll keep it with the brand strategist for now and then move down the line. What do you see when you walk into a business the first time when they ask you to build a brand? I know there's people think mission statement and all that is what a brand actually is, but what are your first encounters with novices about brand building?
So just to clarify, what you see when you walk in or what you see upon actually engaging someone?
Engaging someone.
So the first question that I like to ask is what you want to be known for. And oftentimes people will essentially explain this using their services, that they want to be packaged in a certain way, but not necessarily actually the way that they want people to feel when they experience their brand, or what they want to leave people knowing about them, right? So perception again comes into mind. So the answer on there that they then give will actually give insight into how they're thinking about their brand and how much they've actually thought about what it is they want to do in their actual business as well.
All right. And to Tutsirai, as the strategist, since your title says brand strategist, how do you approach people in those discovery meetings when you're now laying out how they should approach the perception of their company?
Okay, I think the basics of it as well. To be honest, brand building is a whole elephant. So to try and explain it in these few minutes will be a bit difficult, but I think I will touch on one element that's really important on the strategy side of how they can actually start implementing what they want to do. I think the first thing is who your ideal clients are, because brands that make it are brands that are fully built around their ideal clients. If you don't have an ideal client, an ideal picture of what you want to do, who you want to touch, how they speak, where they spend their time, what their pain points are, if you don't have those basics in place, you are not going to be able to catch the attention of those people. So I'll give an example now and say, for me, how I see a brand is if I say, go and stand out there and look for everyone who's wearing a red hat. My brand wants people who are wearing a red hat. And so when I go out there, I write a placard that says, I'm looking for people with a red hat. When those people, which we got so many people who are moving around, when somebody with a red hat reads my placard, they know that they need to come to me, okay? So if you are not clear of who your ideal client is, if you are not building for that ideal client, it's going to be difficult to have anybody that you're serving. So I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Clint, you said dumb questions. I'm going to throw you a couple. As a developer, people think, or the perception of developers is they don't build products with the brand in mind. I want your experience of, is that like misconception true, or is it, so not even misconception, is that characterization true, or is it false?
Well, let's start here. How many people here are developers, work in tech, IT people, etc.? Quick show of hands. Okay, quite a bit of us. How many of us think about the brand of the things we make? Slightly lower number of hands. Here's the reason I'm saying that. There's a way that we've learned to maybe grow up in the world. There's a way that we've learned maybe to create our products and bring them to market. And often it's on the basis of someone asks us to create something and we create that thing for them, right? So we're the engineer, right? We're the mechanic, we're putting the nuts and bolts together, but we're probably not, if this was a car, we're probably not painting it afterwards. We're probably not thinking about how it looks on the road. We just care about whether it gets from A to B. So, yeah, it does tend to have some truth in it, but I don't think that's always the case. I would like to think that a lot of the best or a lot of better and more successful devs have really learned to pivot. I mean, here's an example. I'm up here talking about things I don't know about, but some people now know that Clint is a developer, so hopefully someone approaches me for a job after this. But yeah, you have people who make a Twitter account, post their projects. You have people who join things like AfriBlocks in order to actually show off their services to a higher client base. So I think maybe it might not always be the most traditional forms of marketing, but there definitely is, people are starting to get wise about it, that you definitely have to put yourself out there if you want people to know what you do.
So putting yourself out there, does it mean getting into branding as well, you know, being comfortable with the public persona as developers? I have friends who are developers who are hermits, who hate going outside. And it's just a character type. It's not a knock on their judgment at all. It's just, how do you get people like that who are really good at what they do to embody that personal brand, to be known for doing something?
I would say either if they have no exact way of, if they're not comfortable rather with just putting themselves out there. So as I said, you might not necessarily have to go and do this because this might be a bad idea for a lot of people. But if it's not a social media account, if it's not a LinkedIn profile, if it's not a freelancing profile, then go to the friend of yours that is into stuff like that. Okay, when you make an app, maybe make them post a screenshot of that. For example, I make something, might not be seen by that many people on Twitter. I post it to Miss Chindiya over here. She'll probably get a lot more eyes on it. So try and see what you've got around you, even as a hermit, and see who can help you get yourself out there a little bit more. Network.
Very diplomatic answer. And Mikey, in private wealth, you guys invest in a lot of companies, or they're your investment tool for people who have money. What do you look for when you're profiling or you're getting a pitch deck, let's say, on your desk? Do you put money here or not? Is the brand aspect a big part of it?
So are you talking about us investing for the client or the funds and investments that we look at?
Let's start with for the client.
Pardon?
For the client.
All right, so the first thing that I look at when it comes to a client is capacity, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you to waste my time as well. So first I look at your investment capacity. Do you have a healthy enough surplus after, let's say, your monthly expenses to put aside money over a set period of time? Because we're looking at investment horizons of about 10 to 15 years, which is like medium to long term in a way. And you need to find someone who has the capacity to do so over the long term. So do you have the surplus? Do you have the mindset? And also, I look at things such as the client's risk appetite. Are you ready to take on the type of investments that we're going to be offering you? Especially with what's been happening lately in the markets, there's been a lot of volatility with the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. There was a period when Trump was talking a crap load of nonsense, and we had COVID. We experienced a lot of volatility, and for some clients it was a bit too much to take. And you want to avoid taking up investors or clients that will then want to pull out when markets are down, because essentially that's actually the best time for you to get in there. When units for the funds are at their cheapest, and you can actually get more out of, let's say, a certain investment premium on a monthly basis than you would, let's say, like 2-3 months ago prior to that event happening. So those are some of the factors that we look at, but it's mainly capacity, your risk appetite, when it comes to investments. Yeah.
And in terms of financially viable brands that you've put money, let's say client money or your money, what are the characteristics you're looking for aside from what you mentioned? Things that, you know, some of us would miss since we are not looking at these people in such depth.
So I have a lot of Zimbabweans that come and say, you know, I want to get into crypto, and I'll tell them, I mean, sorry for those who are in crypto, that's the that we don't offer that. I wouldn't allow, well, especially if you're working for a company that has a reputation to protect, you wouldn't allow clients to get into crypto, mainly because it has no underlying assets. So if you're investing in gold, you know, it's backed by, this fund is backed by gold, or the market price is determined by what's happening with gold, or if it's in a commodity like wheat or sorghum or something like that, you know, you can determine the market value based off of what's happening in that sector. But with cryptocurrency, there are no underlying assets. There's nothing essentially backing up what you're investing in, and there's no legislation backing up that investment. So if something were to happen, you're to lose all your money, you can't really take someone to court about it. You can't really, chance of getting your money back are pretty slim. So what we then look at for our clients is we want to offer them peace of mind at the end of the day, so that they know that their financial assets are in jurisdictions where the laws work for them rather than against them. And as such, we then look at reputable financial institutions that have been investing in the industry or in various sectors for a long time. So you're looking at the likes of JP Morgan, BlackRock, institutions like Investec, Hansard, just to name a few. So more than anything, we look at jurisdictions that will give the client peace of mind at the end of the day, because, you know, being in Zimbabwe, I think this is the third or second time that everyone's literally lost money somewhat overnight. I mean, we had it in 2008 when people had their pensions wiped away, they lost their savings that they'd worked years for, and when it comes down to offering something to our clients, we look at investments and funds that will give our clients that peace of mind. that they know that, you know, if I can go to bed knowing that my money is okay, my money is safe, and that's the biggest priority when it then comes down to investing.
So reputation is a massive part for that.
Reputation, yeah, goes a long way.
Because you mentioned JP Morgan and all those, they spent years and millions of dollars building that reputation.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where your clients are typically going to put the money to. And switching forward to our brand strategists, I know we went a bit of a financial detour there, but I'm curious to know, while building brands or building companies, how you can help brands build that reputation. So you're starting with someone has done nothing, and you want to get to the point where you can bring their portfolio to Mikey for investment. So start with Anesu, if you don't mind.
So essentially, building reputations?
Building the reputation for a brand to come to Mikey and Mikey's clients saying we can invest X amount into it.
So, okay, there's reputation in terms of talking about what it is you want to be known for, saying that we're good at this and that, but then there's also being able to back your reputation, right? So it's not just about saying, okay, we are this glamorous company and we're doing well, but you actually have to also back that. So if I were going to Mikey, for example, then she would actually do her due diligence in looking at all of that. So of course, your first point isn't actually just deciding that, like, what is it that you want to be known for and who do you want to serve, right? And then you are then actually able to create your brand with that in mind. What kind of business are you looking to create? What kind of person are you looking to actually come to you? And how best can you create financial models that serve who you're saying you want to be? So just as an example, if you're saying that you want to be an accessible brand, right? One of your values is accessibility. We're now looking at, are your prices accessible? Is your tech accessible? Or is it difficult to even download in this economy, you know? You're saying that you want to help, let's say, maybe people in rural areas. How can they actually access your products? So that in itself, I mean, it does lean a little bit on your business models, but then it also is driven by your brand assets and your brand core and saying, okay, this is what we're setting out to do, this is who we're setting out to help, so we're now going to actually reverse engineer that system and create assets and elements that will allow us to be known for that. So like the example that Tutsirai actually gave earlier on to say, okay, we're saying that we want to look for people with red hats. Now we need to write on our end that we're looking for people that have red hats. There are certain indicators that we're actually able to put in place that tell a person that you're speaking to them, right? So just as a random example, okay, we seem to have a lot of young people here, right? If you're looking to maybe get a starter home, but then you see an ad with 5-story house in Bardale at X amount, right? Are you going to pay attention to that ad? Or are you going to think, actually, this isn't for me. I'm not in that demographic, right? That's already just visual indicators that you may or may not be part of their target market. So when you're already now starting to actually build that reputation, you again are thinking, how can we communicate to our person in a way that they can understand and in a way that will tell them that we want to serve them and we want them to come to us.
Awesome. I'd love to add on to that to say, when it comes to reputation, there's a lot of steps you can take as well, apart from what Anesu had shared as well. But just to add on to that, to say there are 2 things you could do already that's within your power. So when you're building reputation, if you take a look at your clients, right? So there's what we call a client's journey, which we can't really get into now. But at the end of the day, you want to ensure that the clients you have are delighted, because what you'll realize is clients can actually build an incredible reputation for you, only if you do well. So because I'm also a graphic designer and web developer and so forth, one of the things you'll find if you go around in Zimbabwe right now and ask people about people who do graphics and whatever, there's already a reputation that is there, where people can begin to say, these guys don't meet deadlines, they don't do such and such and such and such. So if you want to build your reputation, make your clients happy, because they're actually a reference point. Because what will begin to happen is when you serve a particular market well, a reputation begins to go around. So no matter what you write on your poster to say this is what we do, if you don't do what you said you're going to do, you're going to build a bad reputation. The second thing you can do is to find ways to collaborate. There's some brands that have gone beyond us already. There's some brands that are very well known. If it's possible or if it's in your power, find ways to collaborate with brands that have really built up a good reputation. Find ways to come up with a solution for them that they can get something out of it, and begin to collaborate with those brands. Because what we'll begin to do is, obviously, if we see who you're affiliated to, we are most likely going to think that you're going to do the same thing. So you'll find many ways that you can piggyback on someone who's already built up a reputation that is to be reckoned with. I hope that can help as well.
Yes, it does. Clint, you had something to say?
Ironically, I was going to ask the thing that she kind of just answered, which was, it's easier maybe if we're talking about branding from a corporate perspective or how a company approaches you and how they build their brand. But I was essentially just going to ask, let's say I'm Clint or I don't know, whoever my name is. Yeah. I'm some developer fresh out of college. Maybe I have a job, but I'm trying to do some freelancing work and spread beyond it. Yes, I do the basic work. You know, I register on AfriBlogs or any other platform, but I'm trying to get more local traction. How do I do that? You've talked to a lot of it, finding ways to collaborate, doing a good job for starters. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
So thank you, Clint, for that question. It's also really brilliant. So as I said, it's your clientele that's already there. You just build a good reputation with that. There's also what we talk about, collaboration, where you're piggybacking on people who've done, who've gone ahead of you, basically, a type of mentorship that's there. The other thing that you can actually do is intensify advertising, actually. What I mean by that is you've got to push what you have already done. So your client is happy, they're speaking about it. If there's a possibility to do that, begin to hype that. Hype things that you've done well in the market already. Tell your story. So tell your story in I find actually very interesting. In Africa, people have a lot of ideas. I do work with a lot of international clients. Africans have brilliant ideas, but I've seen, I don't know what happens when we're trying to tell our story. It's almost like we don't hype what we do. But out there, you work with a client, and when they're talking about what they do, I mean, you really feel like, wow, these people are doing incredible things in this world. But when you talk to someone who's in Africa, they'll have a brilliant idea that is absolutely amazing, that I myself am thinking, wow, this is incredible. But the way they tell the story, goodness, it's sad, it's low, it's boring. It's like, no designer. It's like, no, guys. No penda. Come on. So you'll find, even for me, I went through it because I started working at a very young age. I lost parents at a very young age. So I started working at like 19 in terms of in corporate, where unlike back then, people would expect you to get to a certain age then work. But one thing I saw is each time people would talk about graphics and stuff, oh, je could draw here. Oh, and it's like, do we hardly use paint? No. But it's almost like Africa has got to be careful about our narrative. So you in the audience have got to be careful about your narrative. How do you introduce yourself? I mean, even at events like this, if we were to start making people stand up right now and say, introduce yourself, tell us what you do, goodness. You just hear someone, they'll say their name quietly, my name is, now we didn't get your name, then they'll say what they do, it's like, what are you saying? So a way to also build your reputation the right way is to ensure that your narrative and your story is powerful enough so that the people you want to serve can recognize you and come to you. Sorry, I'm now overdoing it.
That was great, thank you. In the interest of time, I would like all of our Mike, you had something to say?
I just wanted to add on to what she's saying about reputation. And this is from the firm's perspective. The first year of business, 80% of the business that we had at Carrick when we started was from cold calling and actually finding clients in the market. But now when you're looking at the company, I think we're about 2018, so about 5 years in, about 85 to 90% of our business is now from referrals. So we don't advertise, we don't do billboards, we don't cold call anymore. It's all purely from referrals from existing clients. And when you now even look at it from the finances perspective, I think business has like tripled from what it was in the first year, and that's all purely from referrals coming in from existing clients or even just prospects that you see. And like you're saying, Tutsy, it comes down to just doing what you say you're going to do when you do it. So if you tell a client that I'm going to have a proposal ready for you by 2 p.m. tomorrow, you better have it in their inbox by 2 p.m. Give them a ring, let them know that you've done it. And it's just it comes back down to what you're saying, like being true to your word and seeing things through. So I'm just...
Can I also just add on to, I suppose like from the question that you were asking, was also now touching a bit on personal branding. In saying that, okay, if you have just come out of university and now you have decided that you want to be a freelancer, or now you actually want to build your brand, and build your reputation, one really good thing to do is to actually just share what you're learning. So when you decide to actually take that stance, it removes the fears of perfection, because if you're sharing what you're learning, it means that you're going to make mistakes, you're going to change your mind, you're going to discover new things that you might pivot into, right? And when you actually share what you're learning, like what is word of mouth? It's people talking about something. So I know that maybe, okay, you're asking where you can get coffee, right? And you know that that's something that I'm into. So like I will probably know people that are talking about that or where to go and get that, right? That's how word of mouth essentially takes place. So if you're sharing what you're learning and people can see what you're sharing, when someone is interested in your services, the person that they may ask may say, actually, I've seen this person shares a lot about UI, UX, so I've seen that they share a lot about UX research. I'd say maybe have a conversation with them. That's a really great way of actually starting out, especially because now we have the social media space, the digital marketing space. It means that if you actually want to start doing something, you can start. If you want to start speaking, you can start podcasting, you can start going on Instagram Live, you can go on LinkedIn Live. If you want to start writing, open up a Medium account or start your LinkedIn newsletter and actually start sharing surrounding your topic of interest, right? The more you talk about it, the more people will associate you with it, like she was saying about brand associations, all of that. The more you actually start to bring other people on and say, look, can we have a conversation about this? Or would you like to feature on my blog? They'll actually, again, associate you with someone that's in that industry. And it's a really great way to get attention and to also build your credibility when you're starting out, because you might not have gigs, you might not have jobs yet, but you are showing that you're interested, that you're open to learning, and that you know what you're doing, in that you're actually willing to do the research, write an article, or do the research and actually create a podcast.
It's all right, Clint.
Thank you. Sorry. So one last thing, which I felt maybe everyone else did too, but it was kind of an underlying theme, especially when we were talking about building a brand. There's something else that I really just thought about, which was another way of adding value to your brand is actually how you evaluate your work. Now, valuation, I feel, is actually still a big problem. I think it was Mr. Takunda was talking about how there can be someone who's charging for $1,000 for a website, another guy's charging for $50. And it has created such a problem for people who either work in graphics, people who work in tech, people who work even beyond that, because, yeah, content creation, exactly. Because the truth is, in Zim, someone is just going, there is going to be that guy who is so desperate that even if they made a logo that's worth $50, they're going to charge it $5. They need combi money to get home that day. It's the truth. And it is a tricky balance, but you're going to definitely always have to find that balance of knowing when you're undervaluing yourself so much that you always have to find that balance of progress and your brand, and when you know exactly when you're supposed to push it. And my advice would always be, always do your best to push it, okay? If they're telling you they can only they can only pay $10 and that is gonna kill you, fine. If it's too bad and you need that $10, hey man, it's a bad day, happens to everyone. But always be willing to try and push the value of your brand forward, because it's only that way that people actually start to think, okay, this person is worth this much. Okay, this person's work is worth this much. We can't all continuing to be doing contracts worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for pocket change. It doesn't work. I don't know about you guys, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions. I'd like to thank Mikey, CLINT, Anesu, and Tutsirai for your time, for joining us. Can give them a round of applause, please.